Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. All right, there we go.
I don't know.
We don't know. All right, we're going to pick up where we left off last time. And this time we're going to talk about moving objects. How do we get things to move? So if you get a little bit tripped up or get lost, just raise your hand, and when we get to a stopping point, I'll make sure that I have everybody, and then we'll get back on track. All right. So do y'all remember this from last time, where we went through this here, right? We played a sound, right? I need to change this so it doesn't blow everybody's ears. Never mind. There we go. Yeah, so we had a trigger, right? And it sent a message using an interface over to the boxes here, our exploded box, right? And we had to create a couple of things. We had to create this little message type enumeration that had these little drop down messages, right? And you can select them inside of the trigger here. And we also had to create the interface, and we called it BPI Interactive. And we had a send message on here, and then there's that message type that's being sent over. Right? So I'm going to go back to the blueprints folder here, and then I'm going to right click, and let's create a blueprint class. Let's make it an actor. I'm going to call it BP underscore mover. And then we can double click and open it up. I'm just going to put this tab right here at the top. Now let's go ahead and add a component, something for us to be able to stand on. Or, you could eventually use this to make a door. It's kind of the same, a little bit of the same process, right? So I'm going to add a static mesh, and then I'm going to add a cube to that. And you can shape it to however you'd like. Two by 2 by 0.5. That's fine. Okay. And then I'm going to go over here to the event graph. And we're going to add something in here called a timeline. Has anybody used the timelines before? Have y'all seen those? Yes, no? No? Okay. Timelines are very, very, very cool. Right, Roger? He's playing.
I can't find a network connection.
Okay, that has nothing to do with Roderick, but I can't find a network connection. Okay, so yeah, what we're going to do is going to right-click in the background, and let's type in timeline. And down at the very bottom it says add timeline. And click on it and it'll look something like this. And I'm just going to call it mover timeline. Now all this node does is it plays from beginning to end, and as it goes to each frame, right, it sends a message to the update pin here, and then you can have it change whatever you want on the blueprint, and then when it's done it goes to here, right? And there's a bunch of different options for how you want to play the timeline. Do you want to play it from the very beginning each time? Do you want to just hit regular play and pick up where you left off? There's an option to stop it, so those two would work well together. You can reverse it from the end, or you can pick a time somewhere in between, something that's not the beginning, and play reverse start stop from there. Alright, so let's double click on this. And then let's change this length right here to 1. So that's 1 second of an animation, right? Of our timeline. That's basically all this is like an animation graph. And then there's a little F right here, right? So this stands for a float track. So we can add a float value into this timeline and then track its values through an output. And we can name it whatever we'd like. So I'll go ahead and click on this here. And then we can call it, not like that, alpha. And then now to use our timeline, we need to add some points into this section here. So if I right click in the background, you can add a key. So let's add the first one, right click, add key to curve float. And if you click on it, it should turn yellow. And then up here at the very top, it says time and value. Change those both to 0. Yeah, he is. So we've got the first key. Now let's add another key. So right click. Select it. Let's change the time here to 1 and 1. And then hit compile and save. Yes. Oh crap.
So I have to get going.
You gotta get going.
I
Okay.
don't. You didn't tell us until just now.
All right. Well, that's why we have a recording for it.
Yeah, I'm coming in third Tuesday, and I will see how far we can get caught up. Okay.
Okay. That's why I'll start recording this so it's easier for you guys to keep going.
Where will it be uploaded?
Hmm?
Where will it be uploaded? Or will it be on?
I'll put it on.
eCampus?
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube, but I'm gonna give a link on to eCampus. Yeah.
Thank you.
Remember to edit this part out here. Now, okay. I already snapped. Now, there we go. Alright, so we've got our 2 points here. We've got our one at 0, 0, and our point at 1, 1. And then back in the graph, we have a little pin right here that says alpha. So as the timeline goes from 0 to 1, it's going to play this number right here all the way to the very end, right? And when it's done, it'll go to finished. Now, why is this useful? It's good for blending things. So having things move around, you can update its location. And then you can use it for, so updating location. You can blend values to change the material. In some of the games we worked on, we've used that to do like a progress bar filling up, or when you use a skill for a character, it does kind of a cooldown. Alright, so you can use this for a whole lot of things. Alright, so if you can find your static mesh over here, let's pull that into the graph as a reference. And then let's pull a pin off of this. And what we want to do is we want to change the location of this. So I'm going to do set relative location.
Alright, Josh. Have a good weekend.
Alright, see you later.
Get more done on Tuesday than we did today.
Okay. See you there, man. Alright, now we're going to hook up this pin here. Now, if you see here where it says new location, this is relative to where the static mesh is already at. So, if it's sitting here at 0, 0, 0, if I say, hey, I want you to move up to a value of 200, right? It's going to blend from here to here, right? It's kind of a linear blend. And then the only option that I want to change right now is just the Z value, right? We're going up and down. You can change this to where you can do X, Y, and Z if you'd like. I'm going to right click on it and then do split pin. So if you notice anything that you right click on and it says split, that means it's something called a structure or a struct. And those you can break apart into their individual components, right? Which, you know, in this instance, these are all float values. So, a vector or a rotator variable, a rotator variable, you can break those apart, and those are just, you know, 3 floats, right? So let's pull a pin from alpha here. Let's let go and let's type in something called lerp. Lerp, not LARP. Lerp. And what a LARP does, it LARPs. Yeah, a LARP does. It blends a value of A with a value of B depending on what this number here at the bottom is, which is called alpha, right? So look, but we already created a variable called alpha. So all we need to do is just hook that up to this one instead of A. So I want to hold control, click, and drag. And let's move that pin over to alpha. And then at B, or I'm sorry, A and B, we can change those values of what we want it to blend to. So right now, remember this static mesh, unless you moved it, it's at 0, 0, 0. And we're basically modifying this value right here. So whatever you put in B is where it's going to go towards, right? So I'm going to take this pin and let's promote it. And I'm going to call this destination. And then we're going to click on the eyeball so that'll make it instance editable. So we can see it inside of the map. Do what now? I click on this. Yeah, so we can see it inside of the editor. And then let's click and drag return value to new location Z.
Can you put it on 2 of them? So it changes like a X and Z path?
You could. You could actually just leave this as a vector if you wanted to, so you can blend from one location to another. Just to keep it simple, we're doing one at a time. How's it going?
Doing good. How you doing?
Doing good.
Yeah.
We're doing timelines.
Oh,
Somebody
yeah.
in your spot.
No, I mean.
You can sit in that one or the one
Actually,
next to it.
I'm in that one right there.
Okay. If you need to get here, I don't think he's in this class, so you may just say, hey, I get my files on there and save us working on somewhere else.
Sure.
Yeah.
Am I late? Thought the class starts at 1:30.
Hmm?
What class is this?
Levels on 2.
When does it start?
1.
I thought it was 1:30. Oh, my bad.
Okay. We're recording this, so. Okay.
Everything can and will be used against you.
Yeah. Alright, so we've got A, which is our starting point, and then a destination is B, is our new location. Alright, so that's nice. But we have nothing to hook in here to play. Right?
Could it be played off of the thing we did last class time?
It can be. I'm going to hook it up to begin play first, just to make sure that it works. And then I'm going to type in delay here. And then you can type in a number. Well, maybe I'll just change it to 2. But whatever number you want here, just so we can see it. So as soon as the game starts, we're going to wait 2 seconds, and then it's going to play the timeline, and it's going to update our static mesh's relative location, change the Z value and blend it between where it's at now, 0, and the new location, the destination. Alright? So I'm going to go back to the map here, and I'm going to drag the mover on my floor. So 2 seconds. Move. And nothing. I'll go back to the graph real quick. 2 seconds. I dragged in the right one, didn't I? Set to movable. Yeah. Oh, okay. Whoops. I didn't change my number here. That'll do it.
What?
My destination was set at 0. Alright. So of course it's not going to move from 0 to 0. There's nothing. Let's try this again. So 2 seconds. There we go. And it moves up to 200 units, right? And then it stops. And I can jump well. This is too high for me to jump on. Go over here. There we go. Alright. So it moved up, it stopped, it didn't do anything else after that. Well, that's cool and all, but we're not using that system that we created last time, the messaging system, the interactive interface. So let's go ahead and set it up on this blueprint so we can use all the stuff we created last time. So does anybody remember how do we add the interface to a blueprint? Do you remember where we go? It's at the top. It's one of these. Class settings, yes. And then over here under interfaces, we're going to add the interface BPI interactive. Okay. Compile. Save. So class settings, interfaces, BPI interactive, add that. And then we're going to add in that interface message to this blueprint. So you can right click, type in event, and we want to look for, I think it was send message. Yeah, there it is. Event send message. If you don't see this, make sure that once you've added the interface over here in the class settings, you hit compile. And we should get something like this, right? So I'm going to remove the begin play. I'm just going to move it out of the way. You can hold Alt and click on the pin to unhook it. And then we have our message type here. I'm going to type in switch. And there's an option that says switch on message type. So I'm going to use just activate for right now. And we're going to send it over here. It's going to wait this long, right? And then it's going to start. If you don't want it to have a delay, you can get rid of it. I'm actually going to change this to, or promote it to a variable. And we'll call this delay. Click on the eyeball. Make it instance editable. Hit save. What's nice about when you promote variables that already have a value inside of them, so this was not 0, this was set to 2. When I promoted it, it kept that and saved it for us, which is really nice. So, pile save. It's going to move from point A to B. And now we're going to have it work off of that message system, right? So most everybody at this point, just about. You have a question, Kenny? Which one? Oh, did you add the interface over here? Okay, yeah, if you click on this one, and then interfaces, do add, and then you want to type in interactive. That's the one that we made last time. BPI interactive. Mine's not showing up because I already have it right here. And then hit compile, and then you can right click and type event send message. See if I can zoom in a little bit. There we go. Now the question is, let's say that I want to use this trigger here we had last time. Let's say I wanted to move it like, I don't know, right here. How do I link those together? How do we hook up the exploding boxes? Do y'all remember how? We have this targets variable, right, on our trigger box. So these are currently linked to exploding box. I want to get rid of those and add just one for now. And then we're going to take the eyedropper, or as Roger calls it, the turkey baster, and we're going to click on our mover object, right? And then the message type, I'm going to change it to not be destroy, because this is not using destroy, right? It's using, currently it's using activate. So let's change that to activate. Right? Uh-oh. Got an error. Alright, so those are linked. So when I walk into this, it's going to wait 2 seconds and then it's going to go up. Right? Now, the timeline's already played, so when it's trying to send a message to it, it's like, hey, I'm already done. Right? So, using the stuff we had last time, anything else that you have that utilizes those messages, you can just link them together and get some really interesting mechanics. Now here's a question for you, for y'all. Let's say that it waits a couple seconds and then goes back down. How could we set that up? Anybody? A loop?
Yeah.
We could make a loop. Where would we create it? Yeah, we could do it in here. What if we kept that the way it is and then tried it in here? Mm-hmm. But like, which pen would I use to? That's gonna start a different time in here. Basically, how do I get this to go backwards? Reverse. Oh yeah, we reverse, amend. Yeah. But I want to play it after it's finished, and then it waits a little bit. So we have a finished pen, right? And we also have something here called direction. Direction is letting you know whether it's playing forwards or backwards. So I'm going to pull a pin off here, off of direction, and type in switch. And then it'll tell us which way it's playing. And then hook up finish to here. And then you can decide what happens after it finishes playing forwards or backwards. So if I'm going forward from play and it gets to the end, like, hey, we were going forward, let's go ahead and wait this long. I'm going to promote this. Alright, let me call this delay after finished. And then this one I guess I can change to start delay. Have y'all ever played Crash Bandicoot? Yeah. Yeah, I was watching a video of that this morning. Somebody did a playthrough of it or whatever. And, you know, they have all these hazards, right, that you have to figure out how to beat, right? And then they start adding them over time, like we talked in, like, the first level design class, right? And one of them, there's a sequence of, like, objects that will push you off of a ledge and have spikes on them or whatever. And there's like 5 of them, and they're like 2 at a time, will go bam, and then come back, and then another set will come out and go back, right? And another set will go out, and another set will go out. So if we have a delay in here, we can actually have them move at different times, right? That's the reason for adding that. Or if you wanted to do a sequence where they're kind of like piano keys, like boom, 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 right? You could change the values on them to be like, hey, we're going to start the wait time at bam, 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 and then they all would have the same delay afterwards, and then they would go back to where they're supposed to be. And then you could have it loop again if you wanted, or if you have to stand somewhere and it starts them or stops them, whatever you want. That's why we have that. So now where would I hook this back up to?
Set relative location at the target.
Nope. Remember, I want to play this backwards. Reverse. And then somebody asked the other day, how do you get these pins onto here, right? You just hover your mouse over one of the wires and double click. That's called a reroute node. Or if you right click in the background, you type in RER. Now I've heard several programmers that have come by and said, oh, don't do loops like that. It's bad. It still technically works, but I think that's just because they would rather create another separate custom event that says, hey, reverse, and then it would kind of like, it's wireless now. This doesn't really bother me that much. This is okay. It works. At the end of the day, you're trying to get stuff in the game as fast as possible so you can test it. And then you go back and tweak it, and you just make lots of iterations, right? Until it's at a point where it's acceptable.
The reroute node you put up there,
Mm-hmm.
is that just for aesthetics?
The reroute node? I mean, it does help with aesthetics. It's mainly just so it's easier to read, right? Because sometimes people will do like, stuff like that and be like, I have no idea what's going on.
So you just put it there so you can kind of clean up.
Yeah, so I can easily see, hey, it starts over here, does this. When it goes to finish, I'm going to do that, and you can literally see it goes around, goes back. For the most part, I like having, the wires going, changing levels, so going up or down, right? And then going from left to right. They really shouldn't, do stuff like that. I mean, it is aesthetically, pleasing to the eye like this, but it's mainly so that it's just easier to read.
Yeah, when I was trying to go through the one from last Friday.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't figure out what it was for.
Oh okay, yeah. That's what it's for. So we've got our reroute nodes in here. Something that you can do, I don't think we've talked about this yet, is writing comments, right, for what something does. So there's two ways of going about doing that. You can right click on a node like this, and down at the bottom it says node comment. So this one could be like play the timeline. Let me scoot these up a little bit. Play the timeline, and over here it says update the mesh's location. And then when timeline finishes playing, timeline? How about timeline? There we go. Play the timeline, update the mesh's location. When the timeline finishes playing. Alright, so you can right click and add comments. Another thing that you can do is drag a box around a bunch of nodes, right? Highlight them. And then press the letter C on your keyboard for comment. And you can add a box around them. So this would be like move the mesh. Or movements or something like that. Maybe movement would be better. Yeah. Movement. Now what's going to happen when I hit play and walk into that trigger box and this starts playing? And then what? Yeah, so how many times is it going to loop? Yeah, it's going to loop just once. Alright, because we're playing it. It updates when it finishes and it's going forwards. We're going to delay, play it backwards, and then it goes here again and says, oh, we were playing backwards, but there's nothing hooked up here, right? So it's going to stop. What you could do is you could add a delay or a boolean in here and then say, hey, do I want this to loop? Do I want this to play just once? Do I want it to ping pong back and forth? Do y'all remember some of those options from the 3D game kit when you had your movers? Do y'all remember that? There was like ping pong, play once, loop. So ping pong would be like, if you had multiple points, be like A, B, C, D, C, B, A, and then loop would be A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, right? So yeah, when it gets to the end, it's just going to stop. So let's go ahead and try that. What is it not like here? Error saving. Are there multiple? Oh. What is this? Oh, it's a... I opened it up twice. Alright. So let's walk inside of here now, right? Wait for 2 seconds. It goes up. Alright.
Wow, it's a platform now.
Hooray. Alright. Oh, okay, I didn't know if I stepped in or not. Oh, come on. It's alright, so every time I step into it, excuse me, it's gonna play. So 1, 2, 3, let's see if it'll do that many times. Okay, so it just only caught 2 times. Alright. Now, I don't think that I added... No, I didn't. I didn't make the delay after finish something other than... Oh, it's 0.2. Oh, that's not very much. I'm going to change that to 1, and then I'm going to make this one editable. Compile, save.
Is that why I didn't wait 2 seconds the second time I pressed it?
That's a very good possibility. Okay, yeah, so here's something. Yeah, so as soon as I hit it, 2 seconds and it starts, right? And then there's that delay here, which was 0.2, right? John was asking why didn't it do that when we walked into it again. Something that you can do while you're working on your blueprints is you can actually watch the graph moving, right? You see it switch between different nodes at runtime. So to do that, you can take your blueprint tab like this and kind of have it hover a little bit, like that. It's a little bit nicer with these larger monitors. You can kind of snap one window to one side, one to the other side, and still see what's going on. But if I hit play, where's the play button? Right there, okay. Where'd it go? Now sometimes if you have multiple things, you can press Shift F1 and it'll get out of game mode, right? So it's still running, I can just control the actual editor now. And then over here in our blueprint that's undocked, we can change which blueprint in the map it's trying to look at. So I only have one mover right now, so under the debug filter here, that's what's selected by default. If I have multiple ones, then they'll be numbered, so you have to find out which one. But yeah, we can watch this running. Can I change? Oh, hang on. There we go. Alright, so hit play. I'm gonna run on this. See the timeline going? Alright.
Pretty cool, yo.
So you can watch it run. See that it went back one last time, right? But because there's nothing hooked up into after finishing when it's going backwards, like right here.
If you hooked backwards up to the same point that the start is going, will it just infinitely loop?
Are you talking about like it here, wait, and then stop, and then wait, or
Yeah.
go down, wait?
Will
Yeah,
it
so you
just
could make it go on forever, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, and by doing that, you know, we could have... Probably want to make a separate section for that. At least...
Oh, you can just press the arrow keys.
Yeah, you can use the arrow keys to move things around. I'm actually going to move these a little bit that way. There we go. And then let's say we had another delay here. And when we're finished, we're going to wait that long. And then where should this go if we want it to play from the beginning again?
In the same place the update is going?
Yeah, you could do play from start, or you could hit play. Yeah. just depends on how you want it to work.
We'll look at that.
And then I'm going to add another reroute node. Go over here. So when it's finished playing and it's going forward, we want to wait this long. And then we want to go to reverse. When it's playing backwards and we finish, we want to go to play. And this will loop several times. And then, like, if let's say that we had we created another enum, which we did last week. You know, we had like the activate, start, stop, destroy, all that. We could have another one and then add those options in, like the 3D game kit, where it has play once, ping pong, loop, something like that.
And that way you would have to like make a whole bunch of blueprints again that you've already made somewhere else.
Yeah, so you can basically we can have that exposed to the map like we do these other variables, and then you click on it and say, hey, I want this one to ping pong, and here's the destination for where I want it to go next. So if it's set to loop, it'll just keep going, right? And then if it plays once, it'll just go up and then stop. And depending on, you know, if we have something over here, when it receives this message again, and to say, hey, we already played once, we don't need to do that again, right? There's lots of things that you could potentially do with this. Does anybody have any other questions at this point? Not at this point? As a challenge for you, while I walk around and give some help, some people back here, see if you can get it to move on a different axis. So instead of it going from 0 on the z-axis to our destination on the z-axis, see if you can get it to go on x and y, and then we're going to look at how to do something called a 3D widget, something that you can actually drag around the world and see how it moves back and forth. So if you want to come up here and look at the blueprints, you certainly can. I want to walk around and make sure everybody's up to this point. question, Kevin? Okay. If y'all want to move the graph around, if you can come up here, computer, move it around. if you need to.
Oh, okay. I see.
Move it a little bit this way. And put it right here. There we go. Whoa. It's fine. Did anybody get to move on the other axes?
I'm getting
move
it to
on
move
X
on.
and Y?
Would you like to see what I've done?
Oh, did you break it? Alright, so it's a blend from A to B. So this is A. That's B, right?
That's the starting point.
Yeah, so A is starting, B ending. Excuse me. So A, we're just gonna pretend that that's this location right here.
So
And B is where it gets to.
on the time marker, the time marker table,
Hmm?
go there to the right to the
Oh, this one?
So those are just arbitrary points. They can be
Whatever you want.
whatever you want, but it's just a point.
Yeah, and the reason that we're not exactly as Tyler is saying, like, I want to move it to here, and it goes up and comes back down. Right? You can technically do whatever you want with the graph, but there's a really cool thing that you can do with point A is 0 and point B is 1.
What do you get point B to?
Huh?
Doesn't matter.
Point B away. Or here. Then that would take 2 seconds to click through.
How does it go there?
It's going at a different speed.
Okay.
For leaving it like this, I'm about to show, is that you can have it going faster Alright, did everybody get their mover working? Anybody raise your hand if you couldn't get it working? Didn't work? Okay. Kenny, does yours look like this? Huh? Did you add this part? Do what now?
Oh, yeah, you press C. So if you go to here, you have the menu change button.
It's a message.
Is that in the app? The mover? Oh, it's right there. Okay. Good. Oh, we didn't change this. Click on the little eyedropper. Click on the there we go. Now we're moving. So you can switch that to that thing. Right. And then it's gonna go back down after a couple of sweet. It's gonna keep going forever and ever and ever and ever again.
Alright, does anybody else need help?
I think I might.
You got it? You think you might?
Yeah.
I
got it.
You might need help too.
I had trouble figuring out some of the things. I was like, I just variables. So yeah. A lot of this stuff I wasn't familiar with. Okay, so yeah, here we created. Yeah, I saw you did that. Yeah, not bad. Yeah, it's the. I think you. Yeah, you made a vector for. Yeah, I did.
Sir,
Yes.
would you like to see the message I have ensued? So first off, I was trying to get the mover to have a secondary thing where if it hits start, which is the second platform, then it also does a Y value.
So if it hits it, it'll move in a different direction.
Yeah, and it'll also add it'll also do the thing for A and B, and it'll change the location. Pretty
That's
much
cool.
completely.
Oh, nice. So if it hits something, it'll just set that as a new
Yeah,
location.
it'll set that as a new thing for the start, set,
Does it work?
secondary move. It does not.
Well, you don't have anything hooked up here.
Yeah, it is.
You don't.
Right there.
Right, you can't hook it up unless there's a pin in the white and the white.
Alright, well, let's see if it works now. Would you like to take
Maybe. I want to get back to this real quick, and then we can look at that here in a minute. All right, so yeah, I think everybody's got this working. Kevin asked, "This goes on forever. Is it supposed to stop?" The answer is no, because we didn't tell it to stop, right? So how would we tell it to stop? What could we do to tell it to stop? We could get rid of the delay, yeah. What else could we do? Alright. If we receive the message stop from somewhere, we could have it stop, right? If you stepped on another trigger that specifically stops it, right, you could have it do that. Or, yeah, if we had a couple of booleans in here that says, hey, we only want this to play once, so when it finishes, it says, hey, do we play once? Yes, okay, don't do any of this, right? That's options. Now, Tyler was working on something like this for in the project dev class, and he was able to make it using a vector curve, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So inside of the timeline, we're using just a float right now, but you can create a vector track, an event track, or a track that you change the color of something. So red, green, blue, and alpha, right? So you can actually have multiple timelines running, multiple tracks running at the same time. And if it has multiple values, do it now? Multi-tracking, yeah. That sounds like a VHS tape. Was it multi-tracking? So yeah, if we wanted to add those, we certainly could. The reason why I said to have this between a value of 0 and 1 is that this is called being normalized. So we take some value and we squish it into a very smaller section, right? And then we can do things like stretch and squash this. For example, how long does this take to play from beginning to end?
1 second.
Huh?
1 second.
1 second, yes. Let's say if we wanted to make it play faster, right? So it takes a half second. What we could do, and I'm going to move this area over here back a little bit. What we could do is change how fast this timeline plays. So over here in the My Blueprint section, we have the little Components tab down at the bottom. If you open that up, and then let's drag in this mover timeline, or whatever you called yours, into the graph. Get. Now this is referring to this timeline right here. We can pull a pin off and type set play rate. And I'm going to hook that up right here. Set play rate. Now, what do you think the value of 0 means?
The amount it changes.
The rate at which it plays. So if it's 0, what's going to happen?
Nothing.
Nothing. What if it's at 1?
It's going to increase it by 1 exponentially?
Not exactly. Yeah, one is default, so that's normal speed.
0 and 1 are the same.
Well, zero is not going to play at all,
Oh, okay.
and then 1, that's normal speed. What if it's at 2?
Double.
That's double speed. What if it's at 0.5?
Half.
It's half speed, right? So what you could do is you could type in a number here for how fast you want it to go, right? And then promote it to a variable. So if I want this 2 times as fast. Now, what is the inverse of this?
Adding more time.
No. Remember, if we inverse something, it becomes a fraction, right? So if I pull a pin off and hit the slash key, the / to do divide, I'm going to put the number 1 up here, and then the bottom I can promote this to a variable, and now instead of how fast does it play, this is how many seconds it lasts. So if you want your mover to take 5 seconds to get from bottom to top, what number would I put into here? 5. So we'll call this duration. Or move duration, something like that. Doing a little bit of math. So yeah, if I left it at 1, 1 divided by 1 is 1. What's 1 divided by 5? 0.2. So the play rate is slower, right? It's playing at 0.2 speed, which means it will take 5 seconds to complete. And if this is move duration is 2 seconds, 1 divided by 2 is what? Half, 0.5. So it'll play at half speed. So depending on how you want to think about it, you can either have the rate that goes in here, the number, just hook this up to here, right? And that would be how fast or slow it's moving. Or if you wanted to do the opposite or inverse, 1 divided by that number, this is how long it takes to finish. So whatever solution works best for what you're working on, use that and be consistent with it. Like I say, if you had multiple blueprints and some had play rate and some had duration, you need to specify which is which when people are using them. Alright, so now if I go back into here, and I'm going to leave this at 1, and I'm going to make sure that the eyeball is turned on, right? The instance editable. Let's say I'm going to change the destination to 500, so it's going to go further up here. And the move duration, I want it to take 5 seconds, right? And start delay, I'm going to change it to 1. So now, step on it, 1 second. So it moves real slow, and then slow back down, right? And because it's looping, it's always going to take that long, right?
Is there a way to add another trigger that you could continuously press to make it go faster or slower?
To make it go faster or slower?
Yeah, it just compounds the variable.
Yeah, you could probably add something in here that when you're on it, or you step into another trigger or something, it would just send a message say, hey, change the value of that play rate or duration, right?
Yeah.
You could do something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
So, that is an option. So yeah, that's the reason why we left it between 0 and 1, is because we can stretch this, right? So not only are we stretching time-wise, right? Whatever your destination is, this is the B value, which in this instance, if we go into the timeline, is right here. So we're stretching it like this, right? And this way. Something like that. And the other really cool part about timelines is that you can add a custom curve into this. And that's probably one of my favorite things to do. So instead of us coming back here and then every time you want to make a timeline, right, we have to set all this stuff up again. We could do it once, and then we just tell it a curve to put in here, right? We could specify our own, and then just load it in. So I'm going to show you all how to do that real quick, and then we might be done for today. So I'm going to go back to the blueprints folder, and do y'all have the data folder still? Do y'all have that in there?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So let's open up the data folder, and then I'm going to right click, and I think this one's under miscellaneous. Let's see. Yeah, there it is. Right click, miscellaneous down at the bottom, and then look for something called curve.
Curve float, there's linear curve, color, and then curve vector.
Yeah, so if you click on, whoa,
Ooh.
let's not do that.
I don't think you like that, Josh.
Maybe we should do it again. Whee.
Yeah.
Should we edit out that part of the video?
Knowledge is power.
Okay. So it's at a curve, right? Now we're going to use float as our class base, our parent class. So curve float, hit select. And then I usually do like C underscore for curve. And then this one will be, let's call this one linear. And then let's call this one, let's make another one based off of that. So just right click, duplicate, or Control W. And let's call this one C underscore smooth. Okay, so if I double click on the linear curve, it'll open up our own graph. Hmm? Yeah. C linear, C smooth. So yeah, you can create your own curves, right? And you can use them for whatever you'd like. I'm going to right click in the background, and we're going to do the same thing that we did earlier. Add 2 points. Whoops. Change this one to 0, 0. Change this one to 1 and 1. And then hit save. And it'll look something like this. Basically what we did earlier. So that one's done. That's linear. And then let's go back to the smooth curve. Open that one up. Same thing. Oh, we probably should have just duplicated after we done this part, but that's alright. Lessons learned. Alright, so is anybody taking the animation class? You have? So did they talk about the graph editor? Yeah? Okay, so you know what we're going to do next. So to make these smooth, right, I'm going to select both of these points like that, drag a box around them, and then I'm going to hit, there's a auto key up here, and then see how it's nice and smooth now? Yeah, nice and smooth. Yeah, if you want to move around the tangents, you certainly can. What you could do is, like, let's say we had a linear curve, we had a smooth curve, we have a, see you later, Roderick. We have a 0 to 1 smooth, right? So it starts off linear and then it ends up curved like this. So I think, was it break? And yeah, and then we could drag it so it's like that, right? And it comes back. So you can do a lot with these keys. That one, hit save. And then let's go back to the blueprint. And let's go back to this timeline. So double click on it here. And then over here, under the external curves drop down menu, we can change that to one of these. So you don't have to make a new curve again inside of the timeline. I wish I knew that 2 days ago. So let's say, hey, I want this to be smooth, right? And they turn dark gray. That basically means you can't edit them. If you want to edit them, you have to come back here, right? That saves some time on you because you don't have to go and change it again. You're like, oh, I don't like smooth. I want it to be linear. We already got the keys for it.
Basically make presets.
Yeah, it's basically making like a preset template, yeah. And what's really, really neat, and I found this out like a couple months ago, is that in the graph you can change which curves are being used. So let's say you wanted one timeline to be smooth, and then one mover to have a smooth timeline curve, another one to be linear. You can change that, and I think it's something like this. Yeah, set float curve. Right? And then you could pick which one in the graph. So, for example, and you don't have to do this, this is just something cool. Let's say that when it's activated, I have an option between a, whoops, I don't want to hook that up, a linear curve and a smooth curve, right? So what I could do is add a boolean or an enum, alright, a little drop down menu with a type, and then add that into here. I'm just going to do it with a boolean for now. So I'm going to do a branch right after this part, and then I copied the set float curve, right, and I'm using it twice. And then I'm going to hook one up to true, the other to false. Hook this up to here. And let's say if it's false, it's linear, and if it's true, it's smooth. And then the boolean could be like is smooth, or smooth movement. Smooth movement. Smoothment. There we go. Smoothment. That's a word, right? It is now. Right, so you can actually set the curve, which is really neat, before you even get to the timeline. And I'm going to hit compile. Whoops, wrong button. Compile, save. I need to make this, oh, I forgot about that. I'm going to make that editable. So now it says, yeah, do I want to use smoothment, or not? So if it's set from right here to go 5 seconds, right? It's going to move up, and it's going to stop. Alright. So that's using, oh, is that using? Did I set that up right? If it's true, smooth, false. I think that worked. Let me turn it on and see what happens. Okay, so what I think is happening, because I had smooth turned off, and it was moving smoothly. I think maybe if you have a curve already in your timeline, it's just going to default to that. Oh, so it push me under. Oh, will it do that? That's something you have to be aware of. We'll see what happens. It may go through me. It may not.
What if it just pushes you down?
Oh.
That's what it's gonna sound.
Ta-da.
You can also make curves for speed. Like, you could set, like, throughout the timeline how fast it's gonna go, or,
You could.
I mean, I'm just thinking, it's like you make curves almost anything, I'm just wondering, like,
Yeah, you could.
this too. So instead of, like, having to set up the curve where it'll be, like, manually on, like, the axis, you could set it where it would go straight up and down with this speed, at what point it would go fast.
Yeah.
Straight down when it gets to the top, it goes up.
Yeah. You could add another track. Oh, you know what? This is why. Okay, that's why that didn't work. I forgot to add the name in. Do y'all see the little float track name here at the bottom? So what should we name it? Alpha, because that's what we typed there. There we go. That's why it didn't work.
You can have a curve and speed for the movement going up, and then a different track for the speed going down.
Yeah, you could have a completely separate one. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, if we had another one in here and have the speed go right, and then slow down. I think.
What kind of bull is smooth movement?
Hmm.
What kind of bull is smooth movement?
Kind of bull is smooth movement.
Yeah.
What kind of a bull? It's just a boolean. What kind of a bull? It is a bull.
I mean, I'm trying to find it from here. There's a lot of
And this is
different
custom. Remember we edit over here in the variable section on the left side. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, smooth movement. And then the last thing that we could do is use vectors instead of floats, right? So I want to see if this will work how I want it to, but basically, yeah, instead of using this, we're still going to keep the alpha, but instead of using a lerp with a float, I'm going to use a vector lerp. So it blends between 2 points. Right? And if I pull pin off and I typed lerp, and then there's an option that says vector in parentheses. So we're blending these two values. And I hook this pin up over here, right? Remember, if this is split, right? If it looks like that, you can right click on it and then recombine. And then it'll put them back together. If you right click on this, if it's split, you can also recombine it. Yeah, and it'll put them back into the. So, yeah, remember, this is a struct. It's multiple variables put into one.
What was that movement one for?
Which one?
One you just deleted a minute ago?
What do you mean movement? Which one?
There's a little green box that you had there.
Oh, you're talking about this other lerp. This one?
No, not that.
Oh, this one?
Oh, it's a destination.
Yeah, I got rid of that one because instead of using just a one value, we're going to be able to change all three.
Oh, I'll just take this. Can you help me with this one? It's not on there.
Oh, it's not on there.
No.
This one?
No. So we start the lerp, you get destination, you can have lerp connected to each other before you deleted them. And I was just trying to figure out what that destination was because it's not on here.
Oh, okay. Oh, we promoted that. That was a variable that we promoted. Yeah. That was the one that we'd added over here. Alright, so we're going to have that hooked up. And then we can have a starting point, right? And an ending point. Or just do a start. It's easier. Yeah, start point and end point.
The vector, the starting point will be wherever you place down the object, right?
Not exactly, because we're going to be able to change this to wherever we want.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I'm saying wherever you place it in the level is 0, 0, 0, correct?
Technically, yeah.
Okay.
So if I move the, you know, the mover inside of the map, yeah, the relative location is still 0, 0, 0. What we're going to do is we're going to have the option to change both the start and end point. Now, it wouldn't be very helpful if we couldn't see these in the editor to be able to click and drag on them, right? But Unreal already thought of a way to solve that. So if you click on your variable, right, that's a vector, it's yellow. Over here, there's an option that says Show 3D Widget. It's about halfway down the list. Go ahead and turn that on. For both the start point and the end point. Make sure that they're editable, right? Eyeballs turned on, and then hit compile. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so editable. It's got the eyeball. Show 3D widget. This means that you can actually click on it. Inside of the Tyler's like, I wish I would have known this on Wednesday.
Dude, seriously, this whole week has felt in graphs and everything.
Yeah, I hear you.
Let me just make something.
Alright, so we're going to click on, move this down, I'm going to click on this here, right? And then when we click on it, you can see the start and end point show up right in the center. Now, the main problem with this is because start and end are both at the same spot, it's really hard to select them. So what I might do is change endpoint to be like 0, 0, I don't know, 50 or something. There we go. Did I mark endpoint as? No, I did not. Whoops. I didn't have that turned. There we go. Yeah, start point and end point. So if I click on endpoint, right, and move it around, look at over here. It's updating. So if I move it here, see it's negative 220, 0, and 160. Move it on the Y. See the updating? So you can move it wherever you want. And then we walk onto here. It should go over there. Right? And you've got an A and B that you can change really easily. Right? Yeah, the point when you're making these little game mechanics, right? These interactive objects or whatever, you want to make them as simple as possible to set up in your map so that you can get to playtesting it, right? And finding what's fun and not a whole lot of like, oh, it's not doing what I want it to do, right? You want to make it simple, easy to use.
Is there a way to add another point that you did so that then it stops doing one location and starts doing another?
Yeah, timeline may not be the best solution for that, but yeah, you could add multiple points and have it like, hey, I want to move to this. When you're done, I want to move to the next one. Yeah. Yeah, or, yeah, when you get to one of these, right, when it finishes getting to one, then they'll say, hey, bump up the number, and then when we go to the next one, they'll be like, hey, change the current, the start point and end point. Be like, so if it goes from A to B, now go from B to C, right? You could have something like that. Yeah, so we can move those points to wherever we want, and I think, did anybody try moving the start point? If I can click on it. No, not like that. So if I change it to like right here, I hit play, it's gonna snap.
Just instantly snaps over there.
Oh,
You kind of need to hit it.
yeah, I was like, what? It's not doing anything. So what happened when I went over the trigger? Why did it snap like that?
Because it had to be at the start point.
Yeah, it had to be at the start point. So what could we do to fix that?
Add a explosion and an explosion sound effect.
That doesn't fix the location of it. That just makes it
No,
explode.
But it adds imagination.
Imagine it. Okay.
It didn't just randomly snap. It spawned into the...
So I haven't tried this before, but I want to see what happens. Do y'all remember in the 3D game kit when y'all could drag the starting position location on a slider and it would blend between 2 points to see where it goes from? We're gonna try to do that in here. So I'm just gonna copy this and okay, yeah, these 4 right here. So static mesh, the set relative location, the start point, end point, the lerp, and let's copy those. Control C. And then, does everybody see this construction tab up here at the very top? This one right here? If you don't see it, it should be down here on the left side under construction script. So right here, double click, or right here.
We're just copy and paste this.
Yeah, we're going to copy paste it. Now the construction script is very, very, very cool. The event graph runs in the game, right? As soon as I hit play, the construction script happens in the editor. Right? So you can do some tweaking or editing things, right? Before you even get into the hitting play. So yeah, let's see how this works. I need to create a variable for this alpha down here. So I'm going to pull a pin off, promote it, and I'm going to type in preview position.
Is it promote the local variable or just promote the variable?
Just regular variable. A local variable is only on a particular function, yeah.
How'd you get that construction script again?
If you double click on it up here,
Oh, okay.
this tab.
Yeah.
Oh, you there? Is this gone?
Oh, darn.
Yeah, there it is. Should be purple. And then what I want to do is, once I promote this alpha variable to a float, I'm calling it preview position, I want to come over here into the details, and there's something in here called slider range and value range. So you can actually have a min and max value that, you can go back and forth between. And that includes making this into a number that you can drag. So, not 0 and 0, let's do 0 and 1. There we go. So I'm going to change both of these to 0 and 1. Why doesn't tab work correctly? 1, there we go. And then hit compile, save. Oh, make sure it's editable. So now, if I go into the editor and click on my mover, see, look, it's snapping to where the start point is. Because in here, this is running right now, currently. And it's just saying, hey, blend these 2 points, right, and set the location. So preview, is currently set to 0. Look what happens if I drag it to 1. Right? And it won't go past 0, and it won't go past 1. Right? So see if you can try dragging that value on your mover.
Oh boy.
Come on, you can dig it out.
If you don't see it...
I'm sorry, I
What's
gotta see
it?
one real quick. Sorry.
Okay, you're good. Let me take a picture.
Warcraft will catch up to me.
So if you don't see this, make sure that it's editable. Alright. And then you can drag, and it goes back and forth. It's like, hey, what does it look like halfway, quarter way? So, success, it works. So that's like how we did in the 3D game kit, and you was like, oh, how far does this go? Right? Because sometimes you don't know. Like, hey, I want to put it here, but does the edge, go to wherever? So let's say, right, yeah, and this just makes things easier. So let me put this here, and then I'm gonna make this. Now, if I move the entire thing, it's gonna move both of them, which is really nice. And then I'm gonna move the start point, and you can actually drag these values too over here. If I did it like that, it's gonna move the beginning. All right, and I don't. Let's see. Oh, the construction script is so cool. It works. There we go. And then I'm going to move the endpoint. We'll move it over here, I guess, to the... I'm going to move it outside so you can get out in here. And then we'll preview it. So that's not high enough, is it? Huh? I'm sure. But I want to make it flush, John. There we go. So 0 to 1. Alright. So turn on this little pressure thing. We'll get on the elevator here. Ta-da! And then it'll go back down. Pretty cool.
Don't want people to steal my thing, please. Thank you, sir.
Alright, did everybody get that working? Got it? Is there anybody that needs to look at this again? Can you look at that? Okay. So remember, we just copy-pasted this into the construction script. So I'm going to leave it right here. I'll zoom in a little bit.
Is there a way to make that a single node?
What, a single node?
Like this whole thing where you just like plug that in?
Oh, you talking about this, all these here?
Yeah, like everything right there.
Yeah, so yeah, you could click on all those and then right click on it and then do update or collapse to function. And do like, I don't know, you can call it like update mover location or update preview location, something like that. Yeah, so the construction script is very powerful. They use it a lot for, if you look at the on YouTube or whatever, they have examples for how you can do procedural stuff. So let's say, instead of taking a fence, so take a fence or whatever, or a wall, and then copy, paste, right? You can have an endpoint, start point and end point, and it'll figure out how many meshes to put in between the two on a curve or a spline or something. Very cool. Yes, sir. Alright, any other questions? Good? Okay, well I'm going to upload this to Google Drive. Y'all have the rest of the class to work on your projects. If you need help, please let me know. Next time, it's been requested that we look at stuff like timers. So we're going to do that. And we're going to look at some UI, how to get stuff up actually up on the screen. And I think, let's see, after that, see, we did health, we did interactive objects, Oh, we probably need to do one on input, like pressing a key or a button, and then yeah, UI timers. Maybe a very, very, very short one on AI, and that will be the majority of our lectures here. And then you guys will have time in class to work on your stuff from now on. Cool. Any other questions? Good. Alrighty.